It was supposed to be a normal Saturday afternoon, just me, my parents, and my younger brother catching up after months of hectic schedules and missed calls. I walked through the familiar creaky door of my childhood home with a sense of comfort, not knowing that this visit would become the catalyst for everything to unravel. The scent of my mom's vanilla air freshener mixed with the faint aroma of brewing coffee greeted me like an old friend, but beneath it all, something felt off. My mom was unusually quiet when I arrived, her smile forced and eyes darting nervously around the room. Dad, on the other hand, seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone and sighing deeply. I tried to shake off the unease and suggested we sit down for coffee, hoping to lighten the mood. But as soon as we gathered around the small kitchen table, the air tightened, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then my brother, Luke, dropped a bombshell without warning. He casually mentioned seeing a letter addressed to Dad that hinted at something big, something no one was supposed to know. At first, I thought he was joking, but the look in his eyes told me otherwise. It was like he had stumbled upon a hidden door in a familiar house and was now daring us to open it with him. I could see the tension build as Dad's face paled and Mom's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her cup. The silence stretched thin, and then Mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. She admitted that there were secrets, things that had happened years ago, things she thought were buried forever. My heart pounded as she hinted at betrayals within the family, the kind that could destroy us if exposed. What followed was a floodgate of revelations. Dad confessed to a hidden financial mess, debts he had kept secret to protect us. Luke revealed he had overheard hushed arguments about affairs and broken promises. Mom shared stories of loneliness and regret that I had never glimpsed before. Each confession felt like a door slamming shut on the family we thought we knew, replaced by a maze of half-truths and pain. I felt trapped in the middle of a storm that I didn't ask to be part of. The people I loved most suddenly seemed like strangers carrying heavy burdens they'd hidden from me. The walls of the house, once a sanctuary, now felt like they were closing in, suffocating me with the weight of years of lies and silence. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I was too stunned to find my voice. Throughout the afternoon, old wounds were reopened. Accusations flew between my parents and Luke, the air thick with frustration and regret. I watched as the family I thought was unbreakable began to crack, each shard reflecting pain and resentment that had been festering quietly for decades. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, powerless to stop the devastation. As night fell, the tension didn't dissipate. If anything, it deepened. We sat around the dimly lit dining table, the silence now heavy with unspoken truths. I realized then that this was not just about my family's secrets, but about the fragile threads that hold people together when everything else falls apart. Each of us was clinging to our own version of the truth, unsure if any of us could still find a way back. I tried to reach out to my mom, hoping to find some comfort or clarity, but she pulled away, retreating into herself like a wounded animal. Dad paced nervously, his jaw clenched tight as he avoided eye contact. Luke sat still, brooding, as if deciding what side of the family divide he wanted to be on. And me, I was caught between wanting to heal the wounds and fearing the scars they would leave behind. In the days that followed, the family's dirty laundry kept airing itself in small but painful ways. Text messages left unread, half-hearted apologies, and cold shoulders became the new norm. I found myself walking on eggshells, afraid that any wrong word or glance might ignite another round of conflict. The home that once felt safe now felt like a battlefield littered with emotional landmines. One afternoon, while sorting through old boxes in the attic, I stumbled upon a stack of letters and photographs that seemed to hold the key to many unanswered questions. They were from years ago, written in my mother's shaky handwriting, and filled with confessions I hadn't been ready to hear, about sacrifices she made, mistakes she regretted, and secrets she kept to protect us. Holding those fragile papers, I felt like I was peeling back layers of a story that had been carefully hidden in the shadows. The more I read, the more I realized how much pain had been bottled up inside my parents. The letters spoke of a love that was complicated and flawed, of dreams deferred and promises broken. It dawned on me that their silence wasn't just about hiding shame, but about trying to shield us from a reality they feared we couldn't bear. But in doing so, they had built walls between us that were now crumbling. I decided to confront my parents with what I'd found, hoping that honesty might be the first step toward healing. The conversation was raw and emotional, with tears and raised voices mingling as we laid everything bare. For the first time, I saw my parents not just as authority figures or caregivers, but as human beings struggling with their own regrets and fears. It was painful, but also strangely freeing. Yet even as we peeled back the layers, the tension didn't fully dissolve. There were old resentments simmering beneath the surface, moments of blame and defensiveness that reminded me how fragile trust really is. I understood that this journey wouldn't be quick or easy. It would take time, patience, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths without turning away. Meanwhile, Luke seemed caught in his own storm. His anger and hurt sometimes spilled over in ways that shocked me. I saw him lash out at Dad, accusing him of selfishness and neglect, then retreat into silence the next moment. It was clear that he was struggling to process everything, trying to find his place in a family that suddenly didn't feel like home anymore. One evening, we all sat down for what felt like a fragile truce. We talked, not about the past, but about what we wanted moving forward. It was the first time in weeks that the air felt lighter, hope flickering faintly in the space between us. We acknowledged that the road ahead was uncertain, but that we were willing to try, if only for the sake of the family we didn't want to lose. Still, the scars were there, and I could see them in the way we avoided certain topics, in the quiet moments when someone's gaze lingered too long on a hurtful memory. I realized that some wounds might never fully heal, but that didn't mean we couldn't learn to live with them, to find new ways to connect despite the brokenness. As I packed my bags to leave that weekend, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and determination. The family I returned to was not the one I had left, but maybe, just maybe, it was a family that could grow stronger through the cracks. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. The truth, messy and painful as it was, had finally been brought into the light. But just as I thought the worst was behind us, I received a text from Luke late at night. It was cryptic, hinting at yet another secret he had uncovered, something darker, something that threatened to pull us all back into chaos. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, realizing that our story was far from over. The laundry might have been aired, but the stains were still there, waiting to be confronted. I don't know where this will lead us next. All I know is that the family's dirty laundry is no longer hidden in the shadows, and now we have to figure out how to live with the mess it's made. It's terrifying, heartbreaking, and exhausting, but it's also real. And maybe, in that raw honesty, there's a chance for something better to emerge. For now, I'm holding on to that fragile hope, even as the storm rages on. Because sometimes, the only way to heal is to face the darkness head-on, no matter how blinding the light becomes.